Okay, so everyone, welcome back to the deep dive.
It's great to be back.
Yeah, it's been a wild weekend, honestly.
It really has. I don't know about you, but I was not expecting this from Meta.
No, no, neither was I. It's like Saturday morning checking my feed and
Yeah.
boom,
Llama 4.
Llama 4 out of nowhere.
Yeah, totally unexpected.
Right. So we're diving deep today, obviously, all about Llama 4, the surprise announcement from Meta, a whole new collection of AI models, and we're going to try and unpack this as best we can.
That's the mission.
Yeah, and what we want to do is sort of pull out those key details, like what does this launch actually mean for the world of AI, and honestly, what does it mean for you listening right now?
Absolutely.
So just to make sure everyone's on the same page, Meta didn't just release one model, it's actually three. We've got Llama 4 Scout,
Llama 4 Maverick,
and then, of course, the one that's still in the works,
the big one.
the big one, Llama 4 Behemoth.
Yeah, so it's like a whole new generation branching out from the existing Llama family.
Right, exactly. It's not just like a little upgrade. This is a pretty big deal. And that, I think, leads us to the first big question everyone's asking, which is, why now?
Yeah, why the sudden surprise release?
Our source really seems to point to this surge we've been seeing with these open source models, particularly those coming from DeepSeek, that Chinese AI lab.
Right, and not just competitive, but actually surpassing some of Meta's own earlier Llama versions in certain cases.
Yeah, they've really been making some waves, and I think that's the story here. It's like Meta saw this and went, okay, we need to step up our game.
The article kind of hints at this almost like a war room situation at Meta, trying to understand how DeepSeek was pulling this off,
Mm.
especially when it comes to cost effectiveness with their models like R1 and V3.
Yeah, it really paints this picture of an intense race at the forefront of AI, you know?
Absolutely.
So let's get down to brass tacks. Where can you actually get your hands on these new models? What's the availability looking like?
So according to our source, it looks like Llama 4 Scout and Maverick are available right now.
Right now.
Yeah, you can actually go and grab them from llama.com.
Meta's own platform.
Exactly. And also through partners like Hugging Face,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of our listeners will be familiar with, that major hub for AI developers.
Yeah, Hugging Face is it's like the go-to place for collaboration for AI developers to share their work. And it makes sense that Scout and Maverick would be there because it really lowers the barrier for experimentation.
Totally.
So for those of you who are already thinking about the big one, Behemoth,
The Behemoth.
sadly, we're going to have to wait a bit longer. It's still in training.
Still cooking.
Still cooking, yeah. But this isn't just about developers, right? Meta is bringing Llama 4 to its own apps, too.
Right into the mainstream.
So we're talking Meta AI, that assistant you find in WhatsApp, in Messenger, and Instagram, that's now powered by Llama 4 in 40 countries.
That's a pretty significant rollout.
Yeah, it is. It is. Although there's a little catch. The really cool stuff, the multimodal features, you know, the ones that can actually understand images and videos, those are initially limited to the US and only in English for now.
Yeah, that makes sense though, right? Like a controlled rollout for testing and refining before they go wider.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there's one pretty big caveat here, and it's a potential roadblock for some folks out there. The licensing for Llama 4 has some geographical limits, specifically the EU.
Yeah, our source is very clear on this. People and companies domiciled in the EU or with their main business, they they can't use or distribute these models right now.
Yeah, it's a notable absence for sure, and it seems like Meta is very intentionally sidestepping any complications with those EU AI and data privacy laws, you know, the ones they've criticized in the past for being a bit too burdensome.
Yeah, it's a whole other layer to this launch for sure.
Right, and to add to that, it's not like it's completely open season even outside the EU. You know, those mega companies with over 700 million monthly active users, they still need to get a special license directly from Meta.
And Meta gets to decide who gets it.
Exactly. So there's definitely this like multi-tiered approach to licensing happening here.
It's a balancing act, isn't it? Like trying to promote innovation, but also keeping things responsible, especially with these really powerful AI models in the hands of huge organizations.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. So let's get technical for a minute, dive into the architecture of Llama 4. Our source points out a pretty major change here. It's the first in the Llama line to use this mixture of experts architecture.
MOE.
MOE, right? Yeah. So can you break that down for us? Like, what is the big idea behind MOE? What does it actually do?
Well, the main benefit is efficiency. You know, instead of one massive model trying to do it all, MOE is like having a team of specialists.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, so you've got all these different smaller AI experts, and the MOE system, it knows which expert is best suited for each part of a problem.
Oh, so it's like delegating.
Exactly. And this can make training much faster, and it can speed up how quickly the model answers your queries.
So it's like having the right tool for the job.
Precise.
And we're talking about some pretty big numbers here. The article mentions Llama 4 Maverick has 400 billion total parameters, but only 17 billion are active at any given time across 128 different experts.
That's incredible.
And then Scout is using 17 billion active parameters, 16 experts, and a total of 109 billion parameters.
Wow.
So for those of us who maybe aren't AI engineers, what do these parameters actually tell us about the model?
Well, in simple terms, parameters represent the model's ability to learn and solve problems. The more parameters generally, the more complex patterns it can recognize and the more intricate tasks it can handle. But with MOE, the key is not all those parameters are active at once. It's like having this vast library of knowledge, but you're only accessing the specific books you need at any given moment.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just about brute force, it's about using that power intelligently. So let's talk about what these models are actually good at. What can they do? Our source positions. Maverick as the one for general assistant and chat tasks, things like creative writing. And apparently Meta's own internal testing suggests it beats out OpenAI's GPT-4o and Google's Gemini 2.0 in some areas.
That's significant.
Yeah, it is. It's on things like coding reasoning, multilingual capabilities, long context understanding, and even image comprehension.
That's a wide range of skills.
It is. But it's important to keep in mind that the AI landscape is constantly evolving, and Maverick doesn't quite measure up to those absolute bleeding-edge models like Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro, Anthropic's Claude 3.7 Sonnet, and OpenAI's GPT 4.5.
Yeah, so it's a big step forward, but the competition is fierce.
Yeah, always moving, always moving. So what about Scout? What's it good at?
Well, the article highlights its strength in document summarization and reasoning over large code bases.
Okay, so imagine feeding it like a giant legal document or a massive software code base, and it can still make sense of it all.
Yeah, and not just make sense of it, but summarize it for you and answer your questions about it.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. And then there's this detail about Scout having a context window of 10 million tokens.
10 million.
Our source says a token is basically a bit of raw text.
Right, like the building blocks of language.
So what does 10 million tokens actually mean in practice?
I mean, it's an enormous amount of information. We're talking millions of words plus images that Scout can process and maintain context across. It's like being able to read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy and still answer specific questions about it.
Wow, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's a potential game changer for things like legal analysis or understanding really complex software architectures.
And to think all of this can run on a single NVIDIA H100 GPU.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, Maverick, on the other hand, needs that much more powerful NVIDIA H100 DGX system or something equivalent.
Yeah, these are not your everyday laptops.
No, they're not. And then, of course, we have Behemoth, which the name itself suggests something massive.
Yeah, Behemoth is packing 288 billion active parameters, still using 16 experts, but the total parameter count is approaching 2 trillion.
2 trillion, that's insane.
And based on Meta's internal benchmarking, it looks like Behemoth is outperforming even GPT 4.5, Claude 3.7, Sonnet, and Gemini 2.0 Pro when it comes to STEM skills, like solving really complex math problems.
So it's a specialized powerhouse.
Exactly. Although, interestingly, it still doesn't quite reach the level of Google's latest Gemini 2.5 Pro.
Right, so different models, different strengths.
Absolutely.
Now, our source makes a really important distinction here. None of these Llama 4 models are what we would call true reasoning models, like OpenAI's Ode 1 and O3 Mini.
Right, there's a key difference there.
So what makes a reasoning model different?
Well, reasoning models are built to fact-check and prioritize accuracy. Yeah. Above all else, they're more careful, more deliberate, so they might take a bit longer to answer.
So it's a trade-off speed versus guaranteed accuracy.
Exactly, and that's something users need to be aware of when they're interacting with the different types of AI.
For sure, for sure. So we've covered a lot of ground here with Llama 4. What would you say are the most important takeaways for our listeners?
Well, first off, the MOE architecture is a big deal. It's a really significant step forward in AI, allowing for more powerful and more efficient models.
It's a whole new way of thinking about AI.
Right, and then the performance benchmarks, especially for Maverick and Behemoth, are really impressive in those specific domains that Meta is targeting.
Yeah, Meta's clearly not letting up in this AI race.
No, they're not. And then you got Scout with that incredible context window, opening up entirely new possibilities for processing information.
It's like AI is getting a whole lot smarter.
It really is.
And of course, we can't forget about those licensing limitations, especially the exclusion of the EU. That's a major factor to consider.
Yeah, it highlights the complex relationship between technology and regulation.
So much to think about. So much to think about. And here's a final thought for all of you listening. Given these rapid advancements we're seeing in AI, the power, the specialization, what does this mean for how we'll actually use these technologies in our lives? How will models with massive context windows change things? How will performance gains in specific areas like STEM reshape different industries? It's a lot to ponder, and we're just at the beginning of this journey. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.